Did you miss me? Yeah, it hasn't been too long since I last uploaded, but I was supposed to upload for leg day, but I woke up late and I didn't have enough time to film or work out prior to my shift starting for work. I do apologize for that. I'm trying my best to upload as consistently as possible, at least 2 to 3 times a week. But despite that, that doesn't mean we didn't hit legs. We still hit legs that day. It was a great pump. Never have skipped a leg day, never will. And that goes for everybody else watching this video too. Make sure you're not skipping legs. Leg days are a non-negotiable in terms of your training. It is currently 4:28 a.m. Hopefully the gym's not too crowded and we'll see how it goes when we get there. But yeah, no more dilly-dallying. Let's get this show on the road. I'm really excited despite push days not being my absolute favorite. If I had to choose between push day and, a back day or a pull day, I would definitely choose back. Something I wanted to talk about and kind of discuss, because I know a lot of people have to deal with this a lot of the time and it's not easy. But what do you do after a binge day? How do you deal with the consequences and the results of a binge day? And for those who don't know, what a binge day is essentially is just a day where you couldn't necessarily control yourself and you just ate as much food as possible in as little time as possible because, you've been dieting for too long or the restrictions on your deficit have been too extreme. And sometimes, because we're human, unfortunately, we lose a little control and our sense of discipline. And sometimes we'll go on a binge and we'll eat as much food as possible because you've been craving it for so long and you just end up eating a lot of food. I've talked to people who've dealt with this. I've done this before in the past as well. I remember the first time I ever tried losing weight. I think after about a month of dieting, I binged. And it was absolutely terrible. But what do you do in those situations? Well, you have to remind yourself, it's not, first of all, first thing you need to do is not panic. And you need to remind yourself it's not the end of the world. Yes, while binging sucks, you steered away from your diet and you ate a lot of food you weren't supposed to, and you probably feel guilty, and you probably feel like shit afterwards. Despite all of that, binging is a one-day thing if you allow it to be. It can be a one-day thing if you allow it to be. The important thing you need to do is not panic and remind yourself, as long as I get back on track, everything will be fine. And it's true, because for anybody that actually knows or has some type of understanding of nutrition and the way it works, that's not how fat gain works. And that's not how fat loss works either. One day of messing up your diet or one day of going away from your diet is not gonna destroy or hinder your progress to an extent. Obviously, depending on how many calories you consume that day, but to gain about a pound or half a pound of fat, you'd have to consume 7,000 calories over your maintenance to even remotely gain about a pound of fat. So you need to remind yourself that it's almost impossible to gain weight overnight. Now, you might see the scale fluctuate a lot the very next day. However, that's just water retention. Your body's holding up a lot of water and your glycogen stores are probably filled up to the max, considering how many carbs you might have eaten and the amount of sodium intake you might have had as well. So you're definitely going to look puffier and fuller the next couple days. But as long as you get back on track to your diet, you'll be fine. The important part is not to spiral out of control, because a lot of people have that mentality, unfortunately, where they think to themselves, well, I already messed up my diet, I already fucked it up, I might as well just eat what I want and then just give up entirely. You cannot do that, because that is what's going to cause you to gain weight at the end of the day and fuck up your progress and all the hard work that you put in. But if you are serious about your dieting and you're serious about correcting the mistake, just get back on track. You don't need to do a fast. You don't need to do a crazy caloric restriction either. The important part is you just get back on track and treat the next few days as normal and go about your diet. And you need to have patience. Unfortunately, you might feel like shit that very next day or for the next few days, and you can't really do much about it but just stay on track of your diet. And if you're on top of it, after about a couple weeks, you'll feel normal again. Remember, this is a marathon, not a race. You might feel like shit for a few days, and you might be thinking to yourself, how can I speed up this process? I fucked up my diet, I overate, I don't feel great, I feel this, I feel that, blah, 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 whatever the case may be. You need to be patient, don't panic, don't spiral out of control, and remind yourself it was a one-time blip, it was a one-time mistake, and after you get back on track, you'll be fine. It happens to the best of us. Sometimes it's something that, unfortunately, we have to deal with, and when that happens, just try your best to stay positive and have a good mindset. Now, here are some tips and tricks on what to do after a binge. Let's say the night before, the day before, you consumed a lot of food and you went over your calories by a fuck ton and you overate and you're feeling like shit the next day. You hopped on the scale, you gained a couple pounds. What you need to do is stay hydrated, first of all. Drink as much water as possible. Water only. Try to stay away from caffeine or any type of sodas or juices or things like that. Just pure water, and keep yourself hydrated throughout the day. Now, what this is going to do is this is going to help you flush out all that excess sodium and water out of your system and kind of de-bloat you. Next, depending on the type of binge you had, if it was heavily saturated with carbs and sugar and sodium, what you want to do for the next few days is still intake the amount of calories you normally would, but try to restrict the amount of carbohydrates you're intaking. Keep the caloric intake the same, but for the carbs, you want to lower them as much as possible while increasing protein and fats so your hormones stay normal. Fat intake will help regulate the hormones. Protein will help preserve muscle. And for the carbs, this is going to help flush out all that excess water in your system and kind of de-bloat you and kind of lower the glycogen stores in your body to help you look a little bit less puffy for the next few days. And just keep an eye on the scale and see how your body feels after a few days before you get back onto your normal routine. My final tip for dealing with a binge is don't regret it. Yes, it might suck to have eaten all that food, and it might suck to have quote unquote steered away from your diet, but see it as a day where you got to enjoy life a little bit. It sucks, don't get me wrong. I've been there. I know what you're feeling. I know what you're going through, because it's very much a psychological standpoint. It's more so a psychological thing you have to overcome, not more so a physical. Yes, you did overeat. You might have gained some weight on the scale and you might not feel the best, but you got to indulge a little bit. You got to enjoy life a little bit. And for a brief moment, you felt okay. So as long as you get back on track, you'll be okay. It's not the end of the world. Don't freak out. Now, don't make this a habit either where you do this every week or twice a week or, 3 times a week. This is not something that should constantly happen or reoccur on a weekly basis, because that is how you end up yo-yo dieting and kind of staying inconsistent in terms of progress in the gym. If you constantly have to fix mistakes where you binge or steer clear from your diet, the progress that you're going to make at the gym is going to slow down severely. That's the important part about the gym, is never get discouraged. If anything, that blip should help motivate you to push even harder and stay even stricter on your diet. But I digress. At the end of the day, I'm not your parent. If you want to consume a lot of food and binge, that's on you. Live your life the way you want to. This is some advice I can give to you, and hopefully you can use it to your benefit. Enough about that. It is currently 4:47. We are going to get a good pump, show the sets and the progression and all that jazz, and then we'll show the pump afterwards. And yeah, once I'm done, I'll see you guys afterwards. Alrighty. So that pretty much wraps it up. As you can tell by the footage, it was a pretty solid pump. Despite me not having any food in my system or a pre-workout snack, still got a solid ass pump, great workout, still looking big, lean, and vascular, trying to maintain as much of that leanness as possible. Road to 200 pounds lean, that's the goal. We're getting there. One way or another, we're going to get to 200 pounds lean. I can guarantee you that. Little by little, we're going to slowly get there. Hit a few PRs today as well, which is great. The gym wasn't too crowded, which was nice. It's always nice when the gym is pretty empty. And hopefully you guys are having a great week so far. Crush those goals. I hope you guys are crushing your fitness goals, and I hope you guys are on track with your diet. Like I was talking about earlier, if you have a day where you kind of slip up or you have a binge day, don't get discouraged. Don't give up. That is the last thing you want to do, is give up and get discouraged. Just get back on the horse and try again. There's no use crying over spilt milk. Keep pushing, keep grinding, don't give up, and don't lose sight of what your goals are at the end of the day. But with that being said, though, I'm going to go home, get some food in me, shower, change, get ready for work, all that jazz. You already know this whole spiel. And yeah, stay tuned for the next video. No promises or guarantees on the next video. And until then, I'll see y'all in the next one. Alrighty.